Okay, welcome to the March 21st Traffic Commission meeting. Members present this evening, Police Chief Dave Callahan, City Engineer Nick Rystrom, Fire Chief Chris Frank Stringy, City Planner. We'll all rise for the, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the first item on the agenda is a public hearing for handicap parking at 54 Carlson Street. We'll take that item first. Proponents.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Traffic Commission. 54 Carlson Ave. As you've seen, I sent you all the notifications and the pictures. It does have a handicap accessible driveway. There's plenty of space. The applicant has stated that the owner, which is his brother of the property, will not allow him to park in the driveway. So I had gotten a letter, notarized letter stating that. So it is the will of the Traffic Commission if they want to grant this handicap sign. I will say that I did receive numerous calls from residents that are highly against this, but due to repercussions, they did not want to come up here and voice their concerns of not wanting a handicap signs put there, stating that there is ample parking for the driveway. So just wanted to let you know that.
Is the applicant here this evening?
I called and left them a message that the public hearing was today.
Okay. Are there any opponents to this handicap sign, 54 Carlson Ave? Hearing none, seeing none, I'll close the hearing. Wish of the members regarding this, there is a letter on file indicating that the landlord will not allow the tenant to park in the driveway, and the tenant has a handicap placard. This is a first.
It's a family member.
It's personally, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but if we have a handicapped person that cannot use the driveway, and I think they should be offered an opportunity to have parking in front of their house with a handicap sign. I don't know what the wish of the commission is. We have a motion.
Just for clarification, the owner of the home is the person's relative?
He is the brother.
His brother, and
really?
his brother won't let him park in the driveway?
Wow.
That's why the neighborhood wanted, that's why the neighborhood wanted as opposed to it. But due to repercussions, they did not want to come up. Numerous calls.
Mr. Chairman, just a question. I'm just looking at the Google Street View. Do we know if there's room for a spot in the front? It doesn't look like.
That was my concern for the distance.
It looks really small. Do we know if there's enough space, if there's a standard size space there or not?
Yeah, Carlson Avenue has no sidewalks, I believe. They're apron sidewalks, so they probably park on the sidewalk.
Is one of the opponents right now. They just walked in.
I mean, I see it
He's opposed.
on the sidewalk. It's just the distance across the house. It doesn't look like it's hard to tell, but it doesn't look like it's a full spot.
Well, if it's not a legal parking
I
spot,
don't-
then the city cannot post a handicap parking sign there. I wasn't aware of that.
A motion to table be in order so we can take a look at that?
There's a resident here, I think, that will speak.
Yeah, sure. We're on 54 Carlson Avenue, and I asked for any opponents. Would you like to speak? Hi.
My first time.
It's okay.
I'm Trev Cartramilio. I own and reside at 22 Carlson Ave, a few doors down from this proposed sign. Excuse me, I just came up 3 flights of stairs. The only question I have about it is really two questions. As I understand it, it's the person that's asking for the permit this time around is the brother of the person that owns the house. And as I drive by it and look at it, it looks like about a 3 or 4 car deep driveway. I'm curious why the brother won't let him park in the driveway, since the brother that owns the house parks in front of the house all the time. So it just seems to me a case of where they're just trying to reserve the parking spot for themselves, number one. My bigger issue is if he's, qualified for it, that he's handicapped, he has a hard time walking or not, I don't begrudge him that whatsoever. My bigger issue is that they're starting to become like a regular thing, that they're unused. They sit there forever. When does it get taken down? If he is approved for this, when does it get taken down? We have one that's in between that house and my house that hasn't been used in many years, should have never been approved. I bet you if it went through the process today, it wouldn't be approved.
Yeah.
But they stay there and they languish forever and ever on a street that's tight already for parking. And now there's going to be another spot taken away, which means anyone that wanted to park there is going to keep coming further and further down, makes it harder for everyone across the street. Another issue is I understand that it's a state law, maybe there's nothing you can do about it, but no one knows about this. I just walked in, I don't see any of the neighbors that are adjacent to that house because they didn't know about this.
Mm-hmm.
Put a little ad in the paper and people are just supposed to, look for that. I don't think it's right.
Yeah, well, the agendas are posted on the city's website of every meeting, so that
I mean, people
That's
don't
the extent of
don't
the-
look for that.
public advertisement.
I think it would be a fairer process if especially the abutters, like me, would be, get a flyer or a notice in the mail, that way you'd see it, but it is what it is. I just wanted to, I had that's my biggest question is when does it come to an end? Like, when does that sign not qualify anymore?
Well, we've had these in the past where they have not been used, and Ralph, what's the process that we've gone through?
I just have to be notified by either the tenant, the person that was using it, they moved a family member that somebody has passed away or moved, or residents adjacent to it that know that it's no longer being used.
Yeah, once that's submitted to the traffic commission, we'll vote to remove the handicap sign.
People are just afraid to do that because they don't want to put their name on it, because the person, will cause trouble if they realize that they say, oh, it was so-and-so that said something about the sign that we've never used since day one that they've had it put there.
Mm-hmm.
They've never used it. They should have never got it. I don't know how they got it in the first place, but it's been there many years, and the one that I'm speaking of in particular has been in a nursing home for going on close to a year, and her daughter, who lives in the house, that has a 6 or 8 car driveway and a 2-car garage, should have never gotten that, and she's told me to my face that her mother's never coming home. She's basically gonna die in that nursing home. It's been about a year,
And this is on Carlson?
It's also on Carlson.
also in Carlson.
This is a person that we've had problems in the past that have fought with people if they tried parking at that handicap placard.
They called, I know for a fact, I don't want to hold it against this person, but it is a matter of, it's going to become like, lollipops. I handed them out to everyone pretty soon if we don't start speaking up about it. Yeah, the police came and knocked on my door because my daughter, this other lady claimed that my daughter's car, which is in my name, was parked there, dead parked for like a week. And she absolutely blatantly lied to the police because my daughter was in college and she was going to school every single day with that car. But you guys gave her a one, and it's been there unused. I asked the traffic supervisor at the time, who's since retired, the Revere Police, to look into it for me, and he reported back to me about a month later, and he says, you're absolutely right. No one uses that parking spot. The only thing that parks in that parking spot is her trash barrels. She puts her trash barrels out on the street in the parking spot as another way for no one to park there. So I don't want to hold it against him. If he qualifies for it, he qualifies for it, but just shouldn't be giving them out like candy. That's my,
No, it's the goal of the traffic commission to prevent that from happening and address it as soon as we acknowledge it, so.
okay.
We're in the process of discussing the one at 54 Carlson Avenue, and the question we have is the safety of the roadway. It seems to be a very narrow sidewalk, people are parking on the sidewalk, there's really no parking lane. And to put a handicap parking sign there we may be causing a public safety hazard for the person who has the car parking in that spot, so.
Yeah, by laws, you need a 34 feet right-of-way for a walkway.
Yeah.
And the handicap parking spot, the distance is supposed to be 16 to 18 feet long. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
So there is a motion to table it, so we could take a look at that and see if they have the adequate dimensions.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Second, so ordered. We'll table this matter. The next one is handicap parking sign at 164 Orvis Road.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Traffic Commission, I had sent you the information for this one at 165 Orvis Road. Unfortunately, this one does not meet the qualifications. It does have a handicap accessible driveway at the residence. But as always, the Traffic Commission has the final determination of granting or denying handicap parking sign.
Are there any proponents? Hearing none, seeing none, close that part of the hearing. Any opponents? Hearing none, seeing none, close that part of the hearing. Discussion amongst the members, any questions? Well, clearly, it seems like they have a driveway that's accessible, so it seems to be a clear and cut case of denying it.
Just as
Mr. Chairman?
clarification,
Oh.
I also notified the resident yesterday that if they wanted to come up and speak on it too, so.
Mr. Chairman, in lieu of the fact that there is accessible driveway in that area and that it does not meet the full requirement, I make a motion to deny this application.
Motion denied, we have a second?
Second.
I'll second it.
Voted and so ordered. 164 Orvis Road is denied. Next, we get into a request to add a drop-off zone in front of 286 Fennel Street from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., 7 days a week. Proponents?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Paul Agenzio, 245 Reservoir Avenue, Ward 4, City Council. A family reached out to me from this address that's having some problems. The building doesn't qualify for stickers because there's ample parking at this condo building. However, the woman is severely handicapped, and the driveway to get to that parking spot is a hill, and she is in a walker and really can't walk so well. And if they go in the back of the building, there's stairs to get up. So it's impossible for them to use that spot to drop her off. She needs assistance to get into the house. They sent me a letter that they wanted me to read into the record, if you can allow me to do that.
Sure.
And this is from Deborah Newberry. My mother, Marcia, is 80 years old and has owned a townhouse at 286 Fennel Street since 1986. She has a handicap placard, and we have been trying to get her a handicapped parking space on the street in front of her home. We have parking behind our building, but she isn't able to climb the stairs or walk up the driveway, which is a hill. My mother was diagnosed with normal pressure hydrocephalus and had brain surgery in January. She has a very hard time walking, and there is never a free space to pull up in front of her house when we bring her home. She just can't be dropped off at the curb because she needs assistance getting into the house. This significantly impacts her quality of life, and it is very difficult to get her out of the house when she cannot walk the distance to the designated parking spot. Is there anything we can do to help? So I thought about a handicap drop-off zone just during the day. It won't impact parking at night. When people come home from work, the residents would still be able to use that spot. and it won't affect the sticker parking from midnight to 6 a.m. So in order to help this resident out, if I could propose like a 30 or 60-day trial in lieu of, or waiting for the public hearing, if you could consider that, I would appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Wish of the members?
Mr. Chairman, just a question. Mr. Argentio mentioned that the resident had attempted to get a handicap spot at one point. What was do you know the details of that?
Well, because they live in the building that doesn't allow parking on the street because they don't have stickers, because there's ample parking, and they acknowledge that, there's ample parking at the condo, but she just can't get to it.
Right, okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Members of the commission, can I talk on this one? I'm very aware of this situation. The resident does not drive, the daughter drives. The daughter picks her up and drops her off. At that time, I don't believe the car was even registered there at the time. But my suggestion was that there is a place in the front that she can just park the car. The car does not need to stay there. The daughter is looking to leave the car there all the time, which it should not be allowed, because they have off-street parking for that vehicle. If anything, it should be just a 15-minute drop zone, if anything, and not take it cannot take a whole thing. My suggestion would be to put it in a handicap ramp there, right there, and not take up a spot, just put a handicap ramp there, because if you do this, then you're gonna have everybody else wanting to have one of these. And they do have the parking that's allowed. There is handicap parking at the building, but it's only to need for pickup and drop-off, not for the vehicle to stay there at all times.
So, Mr. Chairman, I agree with that. It's a 30-minute drop-off,
That's
and
what we're going to suggest, yeah.
Okay,
So a
thank you.
30-minute drop-off zone, so allow ample time for the resident to get in and out.
thank you.
Motion by the members?
Motion to move to a public hearing?
We will move to a public hearing, but I believe the council is asking for a 60-day trial period, or 30-day trial period, till the public hearing is held.
Motion for a 30-day trial period, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion for a 30-day trial period, and then move this to a public hearing after.
I'll second it.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Voted and so ordered. Will be sent to a public hearing, and we'll start a trial period right away with signage. Next request is amend Schedule 8 of Title 10 by removing Ann Road on the southerly side from Malden Street to a 40-foot west, no parking anytime. And to amend Schedule 8 of Title 10 by adding Ann Road southerly side from Malden Street to driveway at 2 Ann Road, no parking anytime. Do we have any proponents?
Good evening, gentlemen. Cristiano, Worcester's Counselor. This is to remove the no parking from 40 feet west of Malden Street, down Ann Road, and replacing it with no parking to 2 Ann Road. There's a limited sight distance over there. This came about before. Since then, there's been a house built in a new driveway, and now there's a site problem at Ann Road and Malden Street. If you look at Ann Road, it comes up on an angle. It's not a 90-degree angle. It's on an off angle. So when you're backing out of the driveway coming out of Ann Road, the view's obstructed. If you put a car parked in the spot now that you're allowed to park, you're blocking the driveway at 2 Ann Road. So I'm requesting to have that no parking brought back to the driveway, from Malden Street to that driveway, based on the limited site distance we have. But if you look at, like it says, Orvis Road, Gore Road, Roland Road, and Ann Road, they're not 90-degree angles. They're off angles coming out of them streets, and it does make it kind of hard to see cars coming down Malden Street onto Ann Road.
Okay. All right, thank you, Councilor Janino. Any other proponents?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm going to reiterate what Councilor Janino said. The problem is a safety issue. When you're coming from the southerly side going north, and if you're going to take the left onto Ann Road, we have pictures of vehicles parking there. There's numerous accidents that almost have happened, both from two perspectives. One is when people coming out of Ann Road onto Malden Street, and then going onto Ann Road. So not only is it a situation where, you know, they're parking in the driveway, that's one issue, but the major issue is the safety issue, as Councilor Janino has stated, because what's happening, there's so many accidents that almost have occurred. I've witnessed it. We have pictures of them showing, we'll show at the public hearing, what they're doing. And it's just not right. I'm concerned that there's going to be, you know, an accident, a severe accident at the location, and we live with this. So I'm requesting that it goes to a public hearing. And thank you for your time.
Okay, on the request, a motion to send it to a public hearing?
Motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to send to a public hearing number 2, which is to remove that sign. And can we also include the number 3, which is to relocate it at the driveway of 2 Ann Road?
Okay, is a motion on the table to send item number 2 and 3 to a public hearing? Second, all in favor? So ordered. Be sent to a public hearing. Item number 4, amend Schedule 4 of Title 10, isolated stop signs by adding the following: Harris Street, northbound traffic to Sewell Street, Blaney Street, northbound traffic at Constitution Avenue, and Coolidge Street, southbound traffic at Constitution Avenue. Do we have any proponents? Hearing none. Are there any opponents to this? Well, this is not a public hearing, so this is basically, there was a continuation of a public hearing, so that was tabled last time. So are there any opponents? Hearing none, seeing none, close that part of the hearing. I did receive a memo from Councilor Cagliandro, who gave the reasoning for these stop signs, and it's basically the balance off the intersections. There's one on one side, not one on the other. And that's why it was tabled, because the commission wanted to have an explanation. And it was given to us, so we have an motion by anybody, any members?
A motion to approve be in order, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, is a motion to approve, second?
I'll second it.
Second. So ordered. Okay. Now, number 5, to amend Schedule 4 of Title 10, isolated stop sign by adding the following: Charger Street at Ward Street, southbound. Is there any proponents of this request? Hearing none, seeing none. Any opponents? I'm not sure if this wasn't part of the original request by Councilor Cagliandro. This is a new request, correct?
No, Mr. Chairman, this is a request that I included. At the intersection of Charger and Ward Street, it's a 3-way stop. There is a stop sign at 2 of those, but not at the 3rd. The 3rd is Charger Street southbound. This would balance the intersection, because as it is now, people don't stop coming south, and there's a problem with safety there.
Okay, we have a motion to send to a public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
So ordered. Send public hearing, item number 5. Item number 6 is to amend Schedule 8 of Title 10, parking restrictions generally, by removing Archer Ave, Lawson Ave, Wadley Avenue, Gilbert Ave, Frank Ave, Beckert, Tobin, John, River, Thayer, and Hayes Ave. Restrictions regarding one-side parking only. Have a 60-day trial run with parking on both sides. Meeting with the Traffic Commission, Police, and Fire to resolve any issues. And request proper signage by installing, which would state resident parking only 24/7 with permit sticker. And the next item, remove signs from northerly side of the street and be placed on the southerly side as per the amended restriction. I believe this item was voted on over 3 years ago to have no parking on the southerly side. And the signs just went up on the opposite side. So we'll instruct DPW to put the signs on the proper side, which is the southerly side. No, to remove the signs from the southerly side, and remove the signs from the northerly side and place them on the southerly side. The request for parking on both sides, that was part of this whole motion when it originated, I believe initiated by the fire department. Because of the narrowness of the street, it's only 24 feet wide. A parking space takes up 8 feet. You need an 11-foot travel lane. So with 2 parking spaces and an 11-foot travel lane, there's no way fire apparatus can get down the street. So that's the reasoning to maintain it as a parking on one side. And again, the street signs will be relocated to the southerly side. Is there anybody want to speak on it, Counselor?
Angela Garino Sawaya, 15 Bateman Ave, Ward 5 Counselor. I have a problem with it taking 3 years for those signs to have gone up. I mean, there's no reason why after 3 years, those signs go up and then people are completely implemented, people that may have moved to the neighborhood that are brand new, that knew nothing of the signs being, having gone up, and then putting them up on the wrong side of the street. I think we need to revisit this entire ordinance that you guys have implemented. And also Blanchard was left out back in 2021, Blanchard Ave, and it's also left out now, so it really needs to get in there if these restrictions are going to take place. I agree with the 24/7 parking to an extent. A lot of neighbors really want to talk about it. They want to tell you how they feel, and I think you should give them the leeway of all speaking. The one-sided parking, I did drive by there and looked to see if an ambulance or a fire truck could get by there, and if they were parked on both sides, no, a fire truck could not get by, and I did see that myself. But I know there are opponents to changing anything now since we waited this long. And has there really been anything that impacted it? For example, has a fire truck not been able to go down the street the way it has been for the past 3 years that no one's even looked at it? Has there been an issue?
I'm not familiar with an issue. I could look into that, but there are plenty of issues around the city with streets, parking.
Right, but I'm
We have
talking
that
about
issue.
here.
So we went down there 3 years ago with Sergeant Janino, and we went through the whole thing. I brought the apparatus down there. We navigated those streets, and that was our conclusion. It would be the same today as it was 3 years ago.
But I think when they poked it up, wasn't this because of the Red Gate building that they were building, and they were worried about people parking down there?
I'm not
When
so
this all
sure
came
that was
about?
the issue then. I think that's been more of an issue recently, but I don't know about 3 years ago.
No?
Yeah, not then. That wasn't the issue, because I can remember Chief Bright and Sergeant Janino working with the apparatus down in that neighborhood to see if it could navigate the streets. And I know it was challenging in some areas, they couldn't do it. So that's why it's where it is right now.
I would appreciate it if you just let the people of Riverside speak. Thank you.
Absolutely, Counsel.
Yeah.
Anybody wish to speak on it? State your name and address.
Hi, good evening. Loretta La Centra, 30 John Ave of the Riverside neighborhood. I was one of the original people that was working on this initially. What precipitated the 24/7 resident parking was the proposal for the building of the Gibson Point development, as well as the expansion of Gibson Park and the potential for a boating facility at the Thayer Ave Boatyard. So our feeling at the time was that we didn't, we wanted to make sure that we weren't seeing a lot of overflow parking at Gibson Park and potentially also from Gibson Point. So the 24/7 was, we asked that to be instituted, which it was. We also, just check my notes here. So what the problem is now is that they came in with the signs, a very haphazard installation of them created a lot of confusion. Some of the signs just say no parking, some of them say resident parking only. I don't have any skin in the game in terms of what side of the street. I have a driveway and I don't have a problem whatever side you guys determine. I think at the time they said the north side would be the side that people would be allowed to park on. One of my concerns is on the, so it's Schedule 9, Title 10, which is a resident parking, the 24-hour enforcement. It does mention that visitors are allowed to park on streets without a visitor placard for a maximum of 2 hours between the hours of 6 a.m. and midnight, unless otherwise posted. So I'm hoping that when you folks get the signage correct, that you also mention that there'll be no visitor parking allowed at all without a visitor placard, because that kind of, it makes moot the reason we asked for the 24/7 resident parking only. We don't want that overflow parking. And if people are allowed to park for 2 hours, 2 hours becomes 3, 4, 5 hours, and it doesn't solve the problem. So it's just a matter of signage, I believe. The schedule does allow it. It says you can you can do away with that as long as it's posted as such, that there's no visitor parking allowed, period. So I appreciate your listening. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening, gentlemen. Mark DeSimone, 273 North Shore Road, corner of Gilbert Ave. I've owned my home there for 30 years now, and there's never been an issue with parking. Not one time have I had an issue with any type of parking. I worked in that sector as a police officer for nearly 20 years. Not once did I respond to that neighborhood for a parking complaint on one of the side streets. Mills Ave, where there's no parking, yes, I responded to calls there. I responded to many calls with the fire department for mainly medical calls. And not one time did an apparatus have an issue getting up and down any of those streets. And we had parking, although in the books it said no parking either side at the time, we had parking on both sides. And there's never once was there an issue. There hasn't been one resident that I've spoke to that is happy about what has just happened with the parking on one side. Also, every street is pretty similar down there for the most part. So if you take Gilbert Ave, for example, there's 6 houses on each side of the street. That includes the house on the corner of North Shore Road and the house on the corner of Mills Ave on each side. The houses on the corner of North Shore Road, some of them don't have driveways at all. Now, if you have parking on only one side of the street and you take into account for driveways, and then you take into account for the corners, because I don't think anywhere in the city you can park within 15 feet of an intersection of another road, and that's a city ordinance. That would be both corners at Mills Ave and North Shore Road. Not even taking account for fire hydrants or handicap parking, you now have about 5 spots for the entire street to park for 12 homes. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. We've been hammered down there with parking restrictions and, you know, the resident parking, and we're our own little spot there. We don't have, you know, 2-family homes. It's mainly 1-family homes. But yet, if you park there for a half an hour without a parking permit at night, or you're getting a ticket. Doesn't matter, you know, how long you've lived there, what's happened, you get a ticket. As it is now, if both of my kids come home to visit, my, you know, adult children, if they don't come in the same car at night, or if they want to stay over, only one of them can park there, because I'm only allowed 1 visitor parking permit. If I have a gathering or something like that, nobody can park. It's got to the point where it seems like they want to put everything on the backs of the single-family homeowner in this city, and it's just not fair anymore. You know, where do they want us to park? And the new fire trucks we purchased, that the city purchased, were a smaller truck, if I'm not mistaken, Chief, for urban environment. Like, Engine 5 has a smaller vehicle now, smaller rig, mainly for that reason, to get around in small, tight areas. If we actually enforced just the parking at the corners, the main problem they have is getting around a corner, and that I understand. But no one should be parking at the corner anyhow. And if they focused on taking care of that, I don't think there's any other issues. I don't know of one proponent for having one-sided parking in that area. It just doesn't, it's unfeasible. You'd have 5 spots on each street. And, you know, that doesn't include if someone has a visiting nurse, or, you know, someone's getting plumbing work, something done. It's just not feasible. And it's at the point where you wonder, why do I own my own home? There's so many restrictions that I can barely even come and go. You know, where does it end? Those signs were put up, and within 16 hours, there was a parking enforcement clerk the next morning at 8 a.m. writing tickets up and down every single street. They weren't even there 24 hours. My neighbor was away. He had just come off a flight. He's owned his house for 35 years. He's getting out of his car, an Uber, and his car is getting a ticket in the street with his resident sticker on it. And he had, you know, the sign hadn't even been there 16 hours. And it's just, you know, I hate to say it, but it seems like they just want to nickel and dime and get every penny they can out of the single-family homeowner, and it's not fair. And you know, I think it's unreasonable for us to have one-sided parking in that area. We haven't had it. We haven't had any issues. There haven't been any fatalities. There haven't been, even the chief said he doesn't know of any instances where they couldn't get through. You know, if it's not broke, don't fix it. That's how I feel. But thank you for your time, and I appreciate everyone listening.
Good afternoon, Juan Rodriguez, 27 Frank. I believe the reason you haven't had an issue with the fire trucks there is because we use our driveways, and in case we need to park outside, we park outside. You might find a car or 2 on the street, so you can go with your truck. Today, I park my 4 cars in the street so I can have visitor parking, and everybody else is doing it. If you go today with a truck to the street, you're gonna find 10 cars on the side of the street, and it's gonna make it harder for you. What's gonna happen? On my street, we have a fire hydrant on the corner. Everybody has a driveway. If it's a fire on my house this week, the truck can't pull in, can get in, he will be able to get in there. But there's so many cars on the side of the street, it will make you jump harder. Because like he say, it's a 20-foot street. You have a car that you never had there before because everybody used to put it on the driveways. Now we have to put them on the street to be able to have parking for people that have stickers, or be able to have parking for my daughter that comes home late. Even though she has a sticker, like he say, everybody's going to the streets looking for parking. There's not enough parking for everybody. So our solutions is to take the cars down the street and save our driveways for people who can't park outside. If you go to the streets today, you will find those problems. Streets that used to be clean so cars to the day, They might have one or two, now they're completely full with cars through the day. And something you're trying to fix is turning into a bigger problem if it happens. I've been living there for 23 years. It's never been a problem, like he said. It's never been a problem with the fire department. You pull in today with your truck, and I guarantee you, you will have issues with space running on your equipment because everybody's car is outside. About the visitor parking, yes, we're gonna get one or two. We can't do anything with this. There's not enough space. It has been 23 years that we can park wherever we need it, when we need it. This is not a part of the city that everyone parks outside every single night. It's just when it's needed. So whoever took this decision don't know the streets, hasn't been on these streets. And I see you guys coming in every time that you guys go in and out. When they plowing, when the police officers comes in, when the fire department goes in, never a problem. Go today, and you'll see all the cars outside. It's gonna turn into a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak?
Hi, how are you? I'm Erika Vasquez. I live at 335 North Shore Road. Similar situation. I'm in a corner house. There is about just 5 parking spots on the street if you don't take into account the corners or the fire hydrant. I do understand that 3 years ago they decided to go, 24/7. But at that time, what they installed on my street was 12 to 6. They changed that about 3 weeks ago. So nothing makes sense. Like every street has something different. So 3 years ago, they say 12 to 6 instead of 24/7. That's the first thing. The second thing about one visitor pass. I do have a driveway. I can fit 2 cars. My husband has a company car. Of course, he has to use the driveway. I have 2 teenagers. Where I'm going to park all the cars? As I say, I live on North Shore Road, so I have to share the cross street with my neighbors. And right now we are all dealing with that. Where are we parking? It really doesn't make any sense at all, especially with the one visitor pass. I understand that many residents want the 24/7, but I do believe in the area we just need a 12 to 6 resident sticker. I have the cleaning lady coming, I have my kids' friends coming. They don't have where to park. There is nowhere. We are surrounded by a highway, Mills Avenue, so you have to go all the way to Riviera Beach to be able to find a parking spot. You could say Gibson Park, and right now all the construction workers are there. When you're talking about 17 and 18-year-old kids that drive and have friends, you are telling me that they have to walk 3 miles or I have to pick them out over there to leave their cars? It really doesn't make any sense. I have lived there for 23 years, and this is the first time that that's happening. And I don't know, I respect, people have opinions about the 24/7 and the 12 to 6, but all the streets need to have the same rules. And they have to go and check what they did 3 years ago, because it was not the same for all the streets. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, good evening. Ricky LaCentra, 30 John Avenue. I also was here 3 years ago when this was passed, and we wanted the 24/7, at least I supported it. 24/7 parking because we were guaranteed with Gibson Park and the Boatyard being a recreation center that there would be no traffic entrance from Hayes Avenue, Mills Avenue, Thayer Avenue into that area. It would be pedestrian only, and as a result of that, all we could see was cars parking and parking and parking from Thayer to River to John to Mills to Hayes. So that's why we wanted the, 24/7, and it had to be uniform, just like the other side of the Point of Pines. As far as my wife said, we have no skin in the game because with parking on either side or parking on one side because we have 2-car driveway and a garage. That was determined, as I said, by, I believe, the fire department, and then Councilor John Powers had brought that up as well. So I definitely support, keeping the 24-hour with the ordinance that was brought up that does not allow the 2-hour visitor parking during the daytime, because that's just opened wide up once, if ever, the boatyard, recreation, and Gibson Park and everything gets done over, because it'll just be a free parking for everybody throughout the neighborhood that doesn't belong there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Hurley?
Good evening. Elaine Hurley, 21 River Ave. I also have lived in Riverside for 50 years. It was no parking down there, either side, until 3 years ago. And I thought it was just parking overnight, because we were having problems with the trucks that were parking. And I thought that was, you couldn't park overnight, you know, they would tag you. But I was surprised to find out that the one-sided parking was decided in '21. There has been no enforcement at all of this until a few weeks ago, and I'm afraid that maybe I opened Pandora's box, because I've been complaining about the parking from the Gibson Point, as you may or may not know. It started with the park, got them out of there, went to Hayes Ave, Thayer Ave, we got signs and everything, and got them out of there. I think they're back down the park. If you go and watch at 3 o'clock, when they get out, you see where they go. Last time I was down there, there was a couple parked in the park, and the rest of them went over to the Point of Pines. There was probably about 20 of them. And so that means they're parking in the Point of Pines somewhere. I have had a woman tell me on Facebook that she sees them all the time. I told her to call 311 and explain what was going on and where they were parking. I am totally for resident parking, because we need that. The one-side parking, I don't see a need for it. I don't think there's any problems with fire engines. I mean, I'm down there a long time. I am on Mills Ave, and I'm on the corner of Mills Ave, so I see all the streets when somebody's trying to get down there. And I don't see any problems with the fire engines coming and going and getting down there. School buses come down, they go down Thayer Ave, they come down River Ave, they go back out in Mills Ave. I don't see a problem with that either. I think you'll have a bigger problem if you do one-sided. Look, these people talking about there's no parking. There's not enough for them. I mean, I have plenty of parking. River Ave, we're fortunate. I have 4 parking spots. We had to put 2 more in when my kids got older. So, I mean, we're all set, but as you go down further, and you do have a couple of teenage kids, you're in trouble. You got them, you got their friends, and as far as them having to come in, I think it's easier to come in and get a place card to go stick on in your window, and I think there should be more than one place card for them. I think one place card is kind of silly if you have teenage kids, because you could have 3 or 4 of them there at a time. So I am for the, I'm for you getting Gibson Point out of there, if you could please. I have been fighting that since last year. And Frank well knows I'm a pain in the neck. You gotta get them. They can't park there. They can't be parking in the park. They can't be parking on our streets, and they can't be parking in the Point of Pines. They have a place for them to park. They rented a place over in the Linway where they bus them. Why they can't use that? Why? Because it's more convenient for them to come here and just walk to the building. And you'll see them. They come by my house, flying by my house, between 6 and 7. Well, recently not so much, but every morning it was 6 to 7. They'd fly down the street, park, and they'd leave at 3. I mean, we don't need the cars in the neighborhood. My daughter was hit by a car when she was 6 years old, by somebody that was using the park. If we didn't have the park, she wouldn't have got hit. Well, it's a park, it's a public park, but there's no need of these guys being down there. There's just no need of it. So if you guys could do something about that, I would really, really appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Discussion by the members on this issue. Again, the one-sided parking was approved 3 years ago. Unfortunately, the signs went up recently. And I don't have an answer why they were why it took 3 years myself for that to happen. So we're stuck with the situation that we now have parking on one side. And I agree, I was down there, the signs are haphazardly put up. They're very difficult to read. We should have more signage at the intersections, no parking from here to corner on every street, because I did notice cars parked very close to North Shore Road, within that 20-foot span from the intersection. Again, we have been consistent throughout the city on parking on both sides where you have a two-way travel lane, as exists on the riverside. So all it takes is one instance where somebody has a party or a barbecue and there's cars parked on both sides, and the apparatus has to get down there, and it can't. So I'm not speaking for the fire chief, I'm speaking for the whole commission, and that's been our main goal throughout the city, is to make sure fire apparatus and other emergency equipment can get down these streets. So I don't see a big demand for parking on the street in that area. I go down there quite a bit. I see maybe a half dozen cars at the most on each street parked on either side. It's easy to say that, but
How many times have you asked the police officers going down the street? You guys don't really go there, but if my daughter has to walk 2 streets over, I want them there all the time.
yeah.
Because they have to say. If you guys are complaining that the people for the apartments are gonna park there, give them tickets, get them out. That's all you guys have to do. But why my kids have to walk 2 blocks to park their car? Because somebody decided to do a permit for a building. The problem is not our street, the problem is the building. They don't have parking spaces. Let them park on our side. I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry. Can you use the mic? Nobody can hear you.
Yeah, you can't hear you.
If the problem is, for what I hear from these people, if the problem is these buildings, they don't have parking spaces. Let them park and make money out of it. After they get 10 tickets, they're gonna stop parking there. We have no inconvenience before whoever came out with this law. They passed it, fine. They're wrong. If you ask my opinion, they're wrong. If the problem is these buildings, they have no parking there, they have no business there, make money out of it. Simple as fact. I'm agree with you about more signs on the corner parking and all this stuff. You guys are correct on some of this stuff. But at the same way, if you listen to all these people and you listen to what you're trying to do, you're trying to fix a problem the city made with this building department, put it our problem. It's not my problem. There's people trying to park whatever they feel like it. Let them park and just make money out of the tickets. Why do I have to pay because of that? Let them park whatever they feel like it. Fill them with tickets, and then as soon as they start getting all these tickets, they're gonna stop parking on our streets.
Counselor?
I requested 60 days. Can you give me the 60 days and leave it the way it is and see what happens? Take the signs down or don't enforce it. I mean, there hasn't been an issue in 3 years. They don't want parking on one side. And I don't want parking on one side. I think we should just leave it the way it is.
No, I mean, that's what we did on the ocean side.
That's what we did
of
on
Point of
Riverside,
Pines.
yeah. I mean, on Point of
And it-
Pines side.
And we still have one-side parking there. And it's a denser area. And it seems to be working. So I don't understand what the real
It's
issue is here.
difficult.
Somebody doesn't want to walk across the street to get in their car.
No,
They
it's
wanna park in
difficult.
front of their own
What
house.
the issue is,
I
there's homes on this side and there's homes on this side. And if you're taking away their parking on one side, everybody's gonna be crammed in on one side. Where are the rest of the people gonna fit? That's what they're trying to say. For example, this family right here, they have 2 children. He has his work truck, his wife has a car, he has a car. So that's three, there's a work truck and 4 cars. Where are they supposed to park? And then everyone else that's there on that street, where are they supposed to park if they're taking over 3 spots in the middle of the street. Where, I mean, and what are we gonna do, give the residents a ticket? That's not right
Everybody has
either.
driveways down there, Counselor. I see a lot of
But
people
he
using their
said he can only
driveways. There's
fit 2
not
cars
very
in
many
there.
parking on the street.
Let me just clear something. That's my sister. She has a different house. So we own 3 properties on this side. And yes, we have driveways. I have 3-car driveways, but we have more than 3 cars. Now, I don't see any laws in Revere because I get 35 taxes for the city taxes for my car. I own 10 cars. Now you guys gonna put a law because I own 10 cars? I can own as many cars as I want. When I bought my house, nobody gave me a paper that say, listen, you can only have 3. So I don't park all my vehicles in here. I have different places. But my problem here is that my daughter's driving. So now I don't have enough driveways to park my cars, to park my daughter's car. So I'm gonna put my cars outside. And that's what I'm doing. I am allowed to park outside.
Yes.
So I'm gonna put all my cars outside. And then, like I said earlier, anything happens, it's gonna be a crowded street. It's easy to work on a street that only has 2 or 3 cars when it's needed to. Instead of working on a street that's gonna have complete full of cars at any time of the day.
And empty driveways.
And empty driveways.
And then nobody will be able to park anywhere.
Because that's a
So they'll
solution.
force people back into their
That's our
driveways.
solution to have people off.
This doesn't make any sense.
Well, it doesn't make any sense to you because you can have your visitors there. But if I want a visitor, 2 people coming over, I need my driveway empty. They can't park outside, so I need my driveway empty. So I'm gonna park all my cars outside. Thank you.
I mean, I feel bad. I feel like we're pushing people out of the city of Revere. It's not fair to the residents. It really isn't. I think give us the 60 days and see how it works out the way it is with parking on both sides.
I just have one comment to make. What has Reservoir Ave, Prospect Ave, Fennel Street been doing for 50 years? They've only had one-sided parking all these years. They've been doing it. And I have to deal with it when I have to go visit my relatives over there. We make do.
When did they change that?
It's always been that way.
That's right,
Right,
exactly.
but you make do with it. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
Okay.
It wasn't changed, and
Thank
it
you. We have
wasn't
many streets
changed.
in the city of one-sided
And,
parking.
and something that was supposed to be implemented 3 years ago has just been done, and they can't do something like that and throw it on someone. And, I mean, without any notification either. So,
Okay, we have other speakers.
I just want- I
Mr.
just wanna say
Christopherow would
something.
like to speak also, so give him a chance.
In 50 years that I've been there, there's been no parking. In 50 years, there's been no tickets. Every once in a while, somebody'd get a little bit ticked off, and they'd call the police, maybe they were having a party, and they'd come down and they'd tag. Once, maybe a year, maybe twice a year. But in other parts of the city, there are other streets to go to, like on Hitchwan and Highland. You can go to the next street over. Or the next, we are a little tiny resident, 120 homes, that's it. We have a highway and the ocean, the river. Where else are we gonna go? That's it, where can we go? There's not like we have other streets that we say, well, all right, we'll go park over there. Like he's saying, they deal with it. Yes, they deal with it. They deal with it, but how are we gonna deal with it? We're gonna go over on the other side and park? We're gonna go on Revere Beach and park? There is no other places to park. That's it, we have Riverside to park. It's frustrating. It wasn't so bad back in the day because the husband had a car, maybe 1 car. Maybe then the husband, then the kids grew up. Now they have cars. So there's 4 or 5 cars to a household. It's hard to park. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. De Christopherow.
Richard DeCristoforo, 31 Mills Ave. In Revere, I'm the corner of Mills and Archer. I've lived there 40 years, and right now, we have no problems with parking. In my neighborhood, we have no problems with parking. Neighbors have parties, they park in front of my house, they park on the side of my house, no problems. I don't know why we have to create problems with putting one side parking and other side no parking. It'll create major problems. What about street cleaning? Has anyone given that a thought? What are we gonna do? Okay, but again, I'm totally against it. I've lived here in the Pines for 40 years. I've lived in the city for 70 years. and it's changing. You want to keep good people here. I come home from work, no parking signs, no communication, no letters. I mean, they send you a message over the phone, but why not send us a message over the phone? If there's a storm, they put no parking signs, it's done. Terrible, you know? Let's all work together. You know, it's working in our little town, city. We love it down there, the neighbors love it down there. They're single-family homes, and why change it? You know, why change it? Let's leave it the way it is and move on. That's the way to do it, seriously. 70 years I've lived in the city, I love the city. People are moving out, good people are moving out. You don't want them to move out, you don't want good people to move out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I make one more quick point?
Quickly.
As Mr. DeCristoforo mentioned, the street sweeping, I don't know what you guys are doing. I mean, unless on street sweeping day, they can't write any tickets at all. I don't know how it works in the rest of the city where there's one-sided parking. What happens on street sweeping day? I'm sorry, sir? Okay, and if it says no parking on that side? That's what I'm asking. How long is that, like, say my neighbor, say I go to work and I leave in the morning. So when you say that day, till what time? Till midnight? So no one's going to get a ticket on the, okay. All right, and I think it was you I heard bring up, you live on Reservoir, you said? All right. All right. Well, the thing that, well, the thing that makes our area much different than anywhere else in, oh, no, but I want to make a point.
I have
if
a
could.
question. One of the questions that I have, and Nick would be able to know, because of mandates, is there eventually sidewalks going in down there? Riverside.
We have sidewalks.
That's what I decided. I wasn't sure if we had
There are
sidewalks.
sidewalks that exist already there.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure.
The point I'd like to make, as far as people had mentioned about the rest of the city, as you did, as everyone else here did, our area, unlike the rest of the city, unlike almost anywhere else in the whole city, our area has not changed since it was built in the 40s. I think they called it Cardboard Village. We've had the same amount of streets and the same amount of houses since they started building houses there, for the most part. You might have 3 or 4 extra houses. So it hasn't been overdeveloped. You don't have 2-family houses. There's no reason to make any of the changes we have. And if it's truly for safety, I think before we worry about a no parking sign on one side of the street, we should worry about the fact that we can't get an ambulance for 20 to 30, 40 minutes. And that is a very common occurrence. That's what's important, not can they fit. We know they can fit. They've been fitting for all these years. And cars, as everyone here knows, everyone here, including myself, has driven a car that was built in the 70s or 80s. Cars are much smaller now than they were then. Everything points towards, there's no reason to change what we have going down there. You don't have one person that wants it, not one. No one has come up and said that they want this. And even the motion itself, when it was instituted, it wasn't by the residents, it was by the council. And the fire chief does, he doesn't seem to think there's that big of an issue down there.
For the record, we went down there, Mr. Chairman, and we did think it was an issue. That's why we came up with this. I do agree with the residents, it was implemented very poorly.
Yes.
But just wanted to correct the record on that. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me speak again.
Counselor.
I wasn't going to come up here in this one, Councilor Janino, Ward 6, but I'm here as the former traffic supervisor. What happened here was similar to Park Avenue. Back in the day, a long time ago, there was no park on both sides, as was off Park Avenue. We had a street down on the Pines, and every night, the neighbors would call on each other. And we'd go down there every night. One night we had to tow both cars out of there. Then the problem went away. Fast forward it, we hired a parking department in the city that became aggressive. Somebody went through the ordinances and discovered, oh, there's no sided parking, no parking on the Point of Pines. Let's put the signs up. The ward council at the time said, no, we're not putting signs up down there now. Turned around, came to the traffic commission, and fought to have one-sided parking from no parking, which is similar to the streets off Park Avenue. We turned around, we gave them the one-sided parking with the agreement that they could pick the side they wanted it on. And this is going back a few years ago. The signs got put on standby. Then they went up recently. Can we readdress it? Absolutely. Get down with the fire department, the police department, talk to the neighbors, get all the neighbors on the street on board, and either pick the side or how they want it. And if it could be done, the two cars could pass through, the car could pass through the car on both sides. But back then, the neighbors were stubborn, they didn't want to move, and we told them both. That was before you were chief, and I think Sergeant Graff was in charge back then. So it was a while ago. But this is where it all came from and how it came about. I mean, I'm not a proponent or opponent. It doesn't affect me at all. But I'd like to see the neighbors get together on it and figure what works for them. Have them park out there and see if we can park across from each other or not park across. See where the driveways line up. If the driveways are across from each other, and they can park offset each other, maybe it might work out. If they're parking side by side, it's not going to work out. But that's up to the neighbors themselves down there to figure out, street by street, what works for them. And I think some of the streets were left out because those streets didn't want any parking at all at the time. So it stayed as no parking on the books. But I mean, it's just, it could be addressed, it could be worked out, and that's it.
I agree, Counselor. We can work this out. But it's going to take some time. So what we have in place now is one-sided parking only. And we can look at keeping it as a 60-day trial period, the way it is now, and then come back after evaluating it and come up with a modification from that.
Mr. Chairman, the other part of it too is just to make sure that the signs are installed properly. I would agree with the chief, this rollout was done very poorly. I'm not sure how that happened, but there should have been notification. It definitely shouldn't have been 3 years later. And if the signs were meant to be on the north side, they should have been on the north side. I don't know how they ended up on the other side, but I think that that's part of it too, to make sure that the signage is correct. I thought I heard also that the signage was supposed to be 24/7, but on some streets, they had it as 2-hour parking. So there's a discrepancy there. I'm not sure which one is on the books. Obviously, we want to. Okay. So we want to make sure that those are corrected, that they're implemented, consistently. I'm not sure where that variation comes from. But we certainly can look at, the access for, apparatus. I would agree with you, Mr. Chairman. We have implemented that for safety reasons throughout the city. Myself, I wouldn't want to wait for something bad to happen. It's more beneficial to prevent that. But just something to think about. I think that we certainly could try to work this out.
So, at this point, we have, a regulation that has been passed for parking on one side. We want to take a look at that and see if it works for the residents or it doesn't work for the residents. And I think we should give it at least 60 days to come to that conclusion. and then we can come back to the drawing board, work something out that works for for the regulators and for the residents. Counselor?
Sorry. I was looking for 60 days of parking on both sides, not just on that one side that's the sign's on wrong. I want the sign, I want the 60-day trial on both sides,
I realize that.
please. I mean, the signs that are up there are useless anyways. They're on the wrong side from what you guys have on the books.
Yeah, we understand that. That all has to be
Okay.
corrected.
So in the meantime, we have the 60 days. So with those 60 days, parking on both sides, just as long as the cars don't park across from each other, we'll be fine. And we can talk to the neighbors.
I don't think we have the authority to do that, and if,
Mr. Chairman, I don't think that we, point of order, I don't think that we have the ability to make that change tonight, as this is not part of a public hearing.
right.
So unfortunately, I don't think we have that option.
Unfortunately, we're going to have to live with what was voted on 3 years ago until we either have another public hearing to change things around. In the meantime, a directive will go out to the DPW to make sure the proper signage is put in place.
Just a quick thing, the gentleman here say he has lived with it. When he gets there, there's no parking. He goes 1, 2, 3 streets down. So I'm gonna go park in Wonderland. We have no transportation to Riverside. Our neighborhood is different. We have no any other street to go by. So if there's no parking, I'll park in Wonderland. How I get home? Those are the things they gotta think about.
Let's see how it pans out, and let's see what the results are, and we'll give it 60 days, and then we'll revisit it.
We waited 3 years to put the signs up. Waited 3 years. Let's take the signs down, let's discuss it, let's have a public meeting, we can get all the neighbors here and see what, what the people, communicate to the neighbors, that we're gonna have a meeting about parking in the Riverside area. We'll talk about it. In the meantime, let's take the signs down and talk to our neighbors. We can all talk to our neighbors and have a public hearing, and maybe someone wants to park on one side, but we'll get a true vote of what we want to do. I mean, that'll be the easiest way to do it all. Let's start the way we've been doing it for 3 years, take the signs down, hold them, and let's discuss it with everybody in the neighborhood, in the Riverside.
It's not our position to shove things down your throat and try to force you into these things. We want to keep everybody happy, so they're not inconvenienced. The fire department's not inconvenienced. Our public safety is not inconvenienced. So at this point in time,
The signs have to
we'll have to go to a new public hearing, but I agree with you. I think this should be worked out with the residents.
Right.
And come back to the traffic commission with a plan that
So
they want us to
why
adopt.
can't the plan be to take the signs down, have a public meeting with everybody in the Riverside, and see what we discuss, and see what the answer is, with everybody in your
Well,
panel?
the signs have to come down anyways, because they've
Right.
been put on the wrong side.
So let's take them down, have a public meeting with everybody, and see what, all our neighbors will have a chance to talk to everybody, and we'll. Give us the 60 days. And then we'll be able to, correct the problem. I mean, we want it to work. You guys want it to work for the neighborhood, and that's a good way to do it. Like our counselor said, thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
All right, so now there's a request by the councilor to give it 60 days, take the signs down, and allow the neighborhood to come up with a proposal to the traffic commission for public hearing. Is that palatable to everybody? Yes, no?
So, my opinion, nothing personal against anybody, but I don't think that we have the authority to do that in this meeting.
Well,
We don't.
the signs have to come down.
No, those
anyway.
I think you can correct them, but we,
So they took 3 years to put up.
right,
Maybe it'll take 60 more
Listen.
days to put up.
maybe. But we don't have the ability, not in a public hearing, to reverse it right now. Right, right. We don't have the authority to vote on it tonight. It's not a personal thing, it's those are the rules of those are the parliamentary rules. I mean, yeah, right?
Speak.
The problem was is that it took so long to put the signs up in the first place. Now we're talking about 60 days to put them back up. And like the gentleman said right over here, I don't know if you can change what you put through. Or what's on, because that's happened the last time. I don't think you can change. Can you change it? No?
No,
At a public hearing, but could you, what is now there? Thank you.
So the only thing that we could do is keep it the way it is then, and we will have to send it to another public hearing for a 60-day trial period for parking on both sides. So that would have to be a motion made by the commission that we send it to a public hearing to allow it to go back to two-sided parking with a 60-day trial period.
How about we have a motion to have a public hearing on this matter?
Okay.
And address it.
Second.
All right. Motion to send this to a public hearing for a 60-day trial period, and give the neighborhood time by the time that public hearing is held to come up with a proposed plan. So the public hearing would be to eliminate parking restriction on one side, allow parking on two sides with a 60-day trial period. Is that correct? Do I have a second? Second. Okay, that's the motion is approved. Counselor, you get your wish.
Thank you. One more thing. In the meantime, can we make sure that they do not get ticketed?
Well, look, it's 24/7 parking. I mean, no parking 24/7. Everybody's going to have a sticker.
Right, with their stickers.
placard, so they
Okay.
won't get ticketed.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Right. Right. There's nothing else on the agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
Meeting adjourned. No. You have to put a request into the traffic commission, sir.
I have a pending from the last meeting.
Well, you can discuss us off the record.
And it's not solved.